Today I'm going to be brewing up 10 gallons of wort to be used for starter yeast. I'm going to pressure can it and put it away in the root cellar we'll be shooting for a gravity of 1030 to 1040. So first step, we're going to grind up 16 pounds of American 2-row. Next we need water. I use well water, so I rigged up a couple of inline water filters to filter it before I put it in the hot liquor tank in the mash pot. Next I fill the hot liquor tank up with water. I use a 1.25 quarts of water per pound of grain. So I put 6 gallons of water in a mash tun. And we're going to mash in at 152 degrees, so we can go ahead and start bringing this water up to about 160. And then when I put the grain in there, it'll drop the temperature. Mash water is up to 160, just a little, between 160 and 165 is usually where I go. Now we can dump the grain in and start mashing. I don't remember if I mentioned it or not. I usually use a 1.25 quarts of water per pound of grain, but today I went up to 1.5 just to make things a little easier and faster. So we've dumped the grains in, and it looks like the temperature is, I want to mash at 152, and it looks like we're right on the money. So we'll mash for an hour, and then we'll go from there. Alright, while we're converting, I'll go ahead and heat the hot liquor tank up to 170 in preparation for sparging. While the mash is finishing up, I'm going to prepare my jars and pressure canner and lids and rings. I use the All-American model number 941 pressure cooker, because it'll hold 19 quarts at once. 9 on the bottom and 10 on top, double stacked. Works great with this system. So I'm going to go ahead and add about 2 inches of water to the top of the grain bed. And I'm going to recirculate it through the marsh pump back into the pot to create a filter bed. What this does is creates a whirlpool effect. It brings all the grains and gunk off the bottom of the mash pot that might have made it below the false bottom. It brings it back on top, and it settles down and actually acts as a filter. From this point, I'm going to transfer into the boil pot, but since we're pressure canning, we're not going to bring it to a boil. I'm just using it as a transfer pot for right now, storage. I'm just going to fill the jars right from there and pressure can them, because at that point we will be boiling, and actually past boiling, bringing the temperature up to 250 degrees with the pressure canner. Now, one thing that I do when I transfer into the boil pot is I put a little strainer bag on the end of the hose, collects any debris, because if I was making beer and going all the way through with it, it'd be going through the wort chiller and it plugs up easy. So I like to strain that to make it clear. So the idea here is to keep enough sparge water going to keep the grain bed covered, which I was lax on, so I got to slow it down a little bit. Now I just keep the flow of sparge water where the grain bed's covered, and then set the pump so it's slowly filling the pot. While the boil pot is filling up with wort, I'm going to start to heat up the lids and rings. You only want to take these up to about 180 degrees. You don't want to boil them. The compound that's on the lid is designed to soften and let oxygen out at about 180 degrees. You get them to boiling and sometimes they won't seal. Normally I would heat the jars up first to a boil and then let them cool down to about 180 degrees when I'm hot water bath canning or canning vegetables and stuff like that. But in this case the wort's only going to be 180 to about 170 degrees when I'm done. So the purpose for heating the jars up so you don't put boiling liquid in them and crack them. So at 170 degrees it shouldn't be a problem. I'm just going to fill them direct out of the boil pot, put them right in the pressure canner, and then we will go through the pressure canning process.